Hello everyone, I wanted to make this video just to introduce everybody to the course this semester. Obviously day one we had kind of a cold weather event, so that made it difficult for everybody to show up in class today. It wasn't too long of a lecture today, so I thought I could recap it here in a relatively short time period. Hopefully you can see everything on the board at home. But just to introduce this is the Biology 2389 Research Methods class. It'll be the first time we've done it here at the Hutto campus, so I thought I would share some insights about how the course is going to go. I have currently up on the screen a copy of the syllabus, and you can find this as well as some of the other course documents on D2L. In here we're going to see that the grading criteria for this course might be a little different than any of the previous courses that you've taken. It is much more like a seminar class that I would have taken in graduate school, where instead of there being a lot of exams or quizzes that you have to study and prepare for this class, instead, how we are going to get graded in this class, if I can scroll down a little bit, you can see that class participation is going to make up about 25% of this class. And what class participation means in here is you will see on D2L that for each of the weeks that we have class, there are occasionally some readings that are assigned. And these are papers that are already up on D2L. If you know how to navigate that, you can already print those things off ahead of time and read them. You can see for week 2, I think there are 2 papers up there that we are all going to read and then discuss those when we get into class as a group next week. So that will be part of the class participation, just knowing that you've read that article and that you're able to discuss it in class. The outside of class work, actually reading that article outside of class, or as we will spend the first few weeks in here doing, trying to come up with potential research projects that are interesting to you. And if you don't have them already in mind, that's okay. I will be sharing projects that I have available, and we will also try and seek out other mentors in the area that might have their own projects. And in between all of us, hopefully you can find something that fits your needs. And I will say, if there happens to be a project that is available but doesn't actually completely suit what you're interested in, that's okay too. I don't want anybody to think that whatever we do in this class is going to affect the rest of their careers, in the sense that it's going to pigeonhole you into becoming one type of researcher. I was fortunate enough to do some undergraduate research when I was going through biology classes. I remember one of the things that I did in 2003 was a survey of terrestrial snails in Bell County. So for a while there, I was kind of the authority on terrestrial snails in Bell County, but since then I've forgotten most of those snails. So it wasn't something that I kept doing. It was a project that I did for a semester just to show that I could complete a project, that I could actually do one of those, and that got me access to being able to do completely other types of projects that I was more interested in. So I say that just to say that, you know, even if we don't get to do this semester something that you're exactly, specifically interested in, anything that we do in here is going to be beneficial for your academic career going forward. When you learn how to analyze and process data, you will get a chance to present this should you choose to. Everybody in this class is going to have to write a research proposal. This is something that will be sent in to the Texas Academy of Sciences. And writing this and sending this in is going to be the other 50% of the grade for this class. This doesn't mean that you have to show up to the annual meeting and actually present this research. That will be an option to you, but it isn't something that you have to do to get a grade for this course. I guess I should also say that for some reason, if you should get sick, or maybe there's some type of conflicting time issue that doesn't allow you to make this annual meeting this semester, this is also not something that is required for you to do in order to get a grade for this class. In addition to the stuff that we talk about, we will mention that there is an annual meeting of scientists called the Texas Academy of Science. And the meeting this year is going to be in Houston. It's going to be held on February 25th and 26th. And we will be taking a team of students over there not to present research this year, but we are going to observe other students that are presenting research, and we're going to try and learn, ask questions from them. It might be the case that some of our groups of students would be presenting at this annual meeting in coming years. So this will be a great opportunity for us to go do some recon and see how things are done. It's also a great chance to network with people in the field that are doing research. So this is part of the class. It's strongly encouraged, but if for whatever reason, like I said, you're not able to make this meeting, it's not going to prevent you from being able to be successful in this class and make a good grade. It's just an excellent opportunity to network and to get an idea of what it's like to present some research. Not that you have to present it, but you get to ask questions of the people that are presenting it in case you happen to be in their shoes in future years. So this Texas Academy of Science is something that if you're going to participate in it, you'll have to first register online to be a part of the organization, and that's just a $20 fee. But to actually go to the annual meeting, it's a $75 fee. So total, you're looking at paying $95 to be a member of the organization and to attend their annual meeting. What's at least good about this is that this course doesn't require you to buy any textbook or anything like that. All of the readings that we have are free and available for you to print off of D2L. So this would be the only cost of the course should you want to go to this meeting. It's also the case that the school will be paying for the transportation. I think we're going to get vans or something like that and go over, and the school will also be paying for your hotel rooms those 2 nights. You'll pair up with one of your buddies in the class and y'all will have your own rooms. I think we leave on a Friday, we stay Friday night, we stay Saturday night, and we come back around noon on Sunday, whenever that will be. So with that out of the way, let me jump back into the syllabus real quick and scroll down this. We've gone through a little bit of the course description. Like we said, this is not going to have exams. It's going to be a class where we do readings. We have group discussions. There will be outside of class work. I'd mentioned some possible projects that are going to be available. As we go through the course, I will continue to mention potential projects that we will have available, things that I have access to that I would be willing to help out and be a mentor to anybody that wants to do field projects that I have available. One that I've mentioned in the past is collecting ticks and trying to figure out what type of tick-borne diseases there are in this area. That would require us to go out into the field and actually get our hands on ticks and collect these, and then also be able to come into the lab and crunch them up and sequence their DNA and find out what types of diseases or pathogens they might carry. Those types of studies I noticed were being done at last year's Texas Academy of Science, and they were getting funded. So I thought that might be a good viable project for us to try and start. But you can see maybe one of the first things to do, instead of just going out into the field and collecting ticks, we would first need to do a deep dive into the research to find out, what types of studies have been done on this before? What types of tools do you need to collect these ticks? What types of tools do you need to smash them up in the lab and analyze their DNA? So we first will, in some of the readings that we have for the class, read about how to do research, read about peer-reviewed journals. And as we learn how to conduct this research, we're also going to be thinking about, possible projects that we can do to get our feet wet with this stuff. So all the research that you would look up, so any of the deep dives into the prior research about ticks or any of the previous projects that were done, that outside of class work would fall under the category of your lab work, in which you are trying to come up with viable projects that you could use to write your proposal. So this is all outside of the class work. Our class participation, reading and discussing articles, as well as doing our own analysis to figure out what types of projects would be viable for us to do, that counts for 50% of the grade, and then actually writing the proposal itself, which is already formatted. We will use the same format that we find on the Texas Academy of Sciences webpage, and you will work with your mentor to fill this proposal out. You will submit it, and we will see if it gets approved, basically. And that is the final part of the class that's going to be graded. There is an option if you wanted to stick around through the summer and actually carry out this research. Those types of things though the grade for the class will be over, sticking around to do that type of research, if you're around and able to do so, would be the types of things that can really make you attractive to graduate schools if that's a direction that you want to go. I know, speaking from my own personal experience, I benefited tremendously from doing these undergraduate research projects. It allowed me to learn how to go out into the field and collect data, and it gave me confidence that I could talk about this type of stuff. And it, I'm sure, was one of the things that allowed me to be accepted to certain graduate schools. And then, more importantly, when I got into those graduate schools, I felt like I could actually survive this. It's very intimidating at first, but once you have this experience under your belt, it really gives you the confidence that you can actually get through this and you could be successful in graduate programs. So that's really one of the things that we're trying to provide here. A solid foundation, a grasp of how to do research, how to present data, just to really try and give you a leg up when it comes to getting into graduate schools and actually surviving them and being successful. So just going through a little bit more of the syllabus, there is a couple of forms that you're also going to find on D2L. One of them is a lab log page. And our ideas with that lab log page is that is a page that you're going to turn in on Fridays to just keep track of what you did during that previous week in terms of your lab work, your outside of class work. So this could be going on to websites like Google Scholar and typing in Central Texas tick research, or whatever research project that you might be interested in, zebra mussels in Granger Lake or anything like that, just to kind of get an idea of what studies have been done, because we wouldn't want to recreate the wheel. We want to first do a dive into the research to see what kind of things are known, maybe try and identify some areas that are not as well understood and focus our research and ask questions in that area. So we have a few weeks that we can actually spend getting some research under our belt on these particular topics before we ever actually get out into the field. So the lab log page is where you would keep track of how many hours you spend outside of class looking up potential research articles and thinking about your own possible projects. The idea, or the hope here, is that you will spend about 6 hours per week on these outside of class activities and this and doing your own research. Some weeks it might not be all 6 hours. It may be a little short of that. Other weeks may be a little over 6 hours. So it's not a hard 6 hours that we're looking at each week, but more like we expect that on average you're going to be spending about 6 hours a week doing your outside of class work. The last page on the syllabus just takes you through our class schedule. You can see day one, there isn't really much. We're just going to do an overview of the course, kind of what to expect. There aren't any readings here for day one, but looking here in week 2, we have our first 2 readings. So you can find both of these on D2L. We will all read these, and this will be part of our class discussion for next time. This is what the D2L page looks like. And when you go originally to the D2L page, there really isn't anything on the landing page, but I have this little note here to click on the content tab. And when you click on that content tab, it should take you to all of the course information. So over here on the left-hand side, we can click under course syllabus and documents, and it takes you to your copy of the course syllabus. There is that lab log page that I mentioned that you will fill in your outside of class hours that you work on research. I'm going to jump to the next thing here, which is the weekly content and resources. If you click on here, this is where most of the course information is going to be found, and it's broken up to the individual weeks. You can see here in week 1, there is a series of slides that we will click through that really just kind of introduce the class. It's what I've been talking about with my words so far. And then there's another thing here, this newspaper article that we're going to look at briefly. And that's it for week 1. You can see if you want to get a jump on week 2, there are the 2 research papers that you can download. There are the week 2 slides that we're going to click through, and there is a bonus PowerPoint, I guess, in week 2, in which we take a look at some of the former projects that were done by previous classes, just to kind of once again give us an idea of the things that have been done and maybe get us thinking about some possible things that we can do in the future. So I'm just going to jump into the newspaper article here real quick. So hopefully you can make this out and the screen isn't too washed out here. But what we're looking at is a survey that takes aim at trying to get a gauge on the local Temple economy. And this was an article that was done and put in the Temple Daily Telegram back in 2010. I know the date isn't on here, that's not obvious. But if you remember what happened back around 2008, 2009, there was a downturn in the economy. And it hit certain places particularly hard. And what this study was trying to do was trying to gauge that the economic conditions in Temple during this time. And so when you read through here, it's an opportunity to try and see if you can tell whether or not there is bias kind of built into some of these survey questions. It might not be obvious at first, but we're going to be doing a lot of this, tearing through these peer-reviewed journals as we go through the semester. So at first glance, when you're reading through this, it's telling us, we're really trying to gauge the economic health of Central Texas. They are asking people basically to go to the Temple Daily Telegram website and leave their email address and answer a few questions about that. And if they do so, they could win a grand prize of $500 or at least $250. And, it says there's a deadline. It'll be closed on December 19th. So this seems like a decent survey to do. But what we want to do is think critically about this and think, is there any bias that's built into this? The goal here is to get a accurate representative sample of Temple's population. However, what they are going to end up sampling here is really just a subset of that population. And we want to think, is the subset of the population that they're going to end up sampling really representative of the entire population? And let me see if I can show you what I mean by that. This study, first off, it was published in the Temple Daily Telegram. So how many people read the Temple Daily Telegram? I mean, newspapers overall are kind of starting to wane. And this already is kind of casting itself towards a certain demographic of people, a certain age group of people that will tend to be older, that will tend to read newspapers in the first place. If you don't read a newspaper, you're never going to come across this study. Another thing to consider is the fact that you have to have an email address to submit your email address if you're going to end up winning any money in the first place. I know my parents don't have email addresses, so that also limits the number of individuals in the population that you're going to sample. So you've got to be a member of the population that actually reads the newspaper, and you have to have an email address, which I know is a lot of people, but it's still getting a little bit smaller. Another thing you could think of here is, sure, you could win $250 or maybe even $500, and for me, that would be great. But there are people in the population that don't care about $500. I mean, somebody like Drayton McLean or Elon Musk, one of the people in the area, they aren't going to spend their time submitting an email, even though they have email addresses and time to do so. They don't care about that. So we won't really hear from people that don't need $500. So the people we will hear from are really just a subset of the entire population. And that's not really what they were trying to get at. So what we want to become aware of is how we ask questions can sometimes lend itself unintentionally to certain biases. And we want to try and avoid that. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but you want to at least acknowledge your biases, if we really want to understand something and have a good, valid study. So I'm going to say with that, I will just kind of close this off. We have at least seen the news article for week 1. If you want to click through the week 1 slides, it will just give you some visuals to an introduction to the class, the same thing that we have done here with words going through the syllabus. So with that news article out of the way and an introduction to this class and how to find things on D2L, I guess I've accomplished everything that we need to get through for this first day. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. I look forward to meeting everybody in person. But if you have questions about anything, feel free to send me an email or reach out. This should be a fun class, and I look forward to it.